Dell finally has a good budget option for gaming, and no, it doesn't heat up like an oven. With the G15 5515, Dell has finally come out with a decent gaming laptop at a really competitive price of $69,000. This time around, they have managed to fix the heating issues which plagued the last year's G series laptops. Not only that, it now delivers a good battery life, which makes this a solid contender if you're looking for a work/gaming laptop in this budget. But there are a few things that you need to know if you choose to pull the trigger on this one. So for the price of $69,000, the base model comes with the Ryzen 5 5600H, a 6-core 12-thread CPU paired with a 4GB RTX 3050 with a 95W TGP. The look and the feel is almost like an Alienware. Maybe Dell is really getting serious about this segment, or they've just realized that this segment also existed. You get a bunch of air intake vents on all the sides and 2 exhaust vents on the back. The screen is a tricky one though, because it's not an IPS panel. It's a WVA panel, which is just below an IPS panel in terms of picture quality. It's got an average 250 nits of peak brightness, which is good enough for indoor use. The resolution is a 1920 by 1080p with 120Hz refresh rate. In terms of I/O, you get 2 USB 2.0 Type A ports on the right side. Now, you need to be careful here because the official website says USB 3.2. But for the laptop shipped with the RTX 3050 and 3050 Ti, they're 2.0, and for the laptops with RTX 3060, they're 3.2. Whoever's in charge of the spec sheets needs to be fired. On the back side, you do get 2 USB 3.2 ports. One is a Type C with DisplayPort 1.4 support and other is a Type A port. So in total you get 2 USB 2.0 ports and 2 USB 3.2 ports. Along with these, there's an HDMI 2.1 port connected to the discrete GPU. So if you want to bypass the iGPU to game on an external monitor for some extra FPS, you can definitely do that here. And there's the power input right next to it. On the left you get a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port and an audio jack. The keyboard is backlit with single color LED, most probably orange, with 3 brightness modes and has a decent travel distance which feels more than comfortable to type on. One of the most prominent issues with the Dell G series in these recent years was their terrible thermal performance, which saw last year's Dell G5 reaching temperatures north of 100 degrees Celsius. This year's Dell G15, however, offers quite decent thermal performance for the kind of hardware that it's housing. Now, I don't mean to mislead you by saying all this, so don't expect miracle cooling. After all, it's a gaming laptop. All I mean to say is that its thermals are just as you would expect from a gaming laptop of this range. Upgradability on this one is great. When you open it up, you find plenty of room to play with and an Alienware logo greeting you. You can upgrade the RAM to up to 16GB in dual channel on this Ryzen 5 model. However, on the Ryzen 7 model, you can go as high as 64GB. There are 2 M.2 slots. One already comes populated with a 512GB SSD and the other one's empty for you to stick another stick in it. Here you have the killer Wi-Fi 6 card. You will also find a battery here, and depending on the model you choose, it may range from a 56Wh battery to a 86Wh one. In our case, the 56Wh one would last you an exceptional 7 hours on web browsing and video playback, but while gaming, it only lasts around 2.5. You may notice that the cooling apparatus and the CPU GPU are on the other side of the board, which makes repasting the CPU and GPU quite a tedious task. But despite this strange placement, keyboard doesn't get really hot while gaming, which is just great. As for the performance, it's just like any other laptop with a Ryzen 5 5600H and an imposter GTX 1650, RTX 3050. Now let's talk about the thermals, shall we? And this is going to be really subjective, so the use of common sense is highly recommended. If you play games on high to ultra settings, then the CPU is going to tiptoe between 90 to 95 degrees and the GPU will stay around 85 degrees. But if you're a With a decently working brain, you will play games at medium to high settings to take advantage of that 120Hz screen you just purchased. In which case, you're looking at temperatures not more than 70 for both the CPU and the GPU, which is great for the lifespan and the durability of your device too. Now we have discussed all things great with this wannabe Alienware, and you might be smiling by now, thinking that you're going to get this sick laptop and finally get gaming. Too bad, here comes all the bad things about it. So to be honest, there aren't any grave issues that you should be worried about, or issues that you won't find in other laptops. But as your statutory right, here goes the list of some issues that you should know about. The screen. The WVA panel can be an off-putting feature for you. Although it looks almost next to an IPS panel, it still lacks the deeper blacks and clearer whites of an actual IPS panel. Also, the 120Hz on a WVA panel can produce a little ghosting and blurring while gaming. No mux switch. Sadly, there's no way to disable Optimus from the settings, but you can totally do that by disabling the hybrid graphics from the BIOS or by playing on an external monitor via the HDMI port. Lack of info. This is not technically an issue with the laptop but the company itself. You see, the website says USB ports on the right side are USB 3.2, but then you find out that it's only for the laptops with the RTX 3060. So there's definitely someone in the company who's not earning their salary. Not only that, the spec sheet also doesn't mention whether the screen supports FreeSync or not, or whether the HDMI port is HDMI 2.0 or 2.1. Therefore, it becomes really hard to make a well-informed purchase decision, and becomes the customer's duty to make sure that you've made sure you're getting what you ordered. Other than these 4 tiny bits of info, I didn't find anything wrong with the notebook. Peeps with an external monitor and Gordon Ramsay for a personality might find the WVA panel really freaking annoying. But if you're not as picky about screens and have a grateful soul in these trying times, you'll be more than happy rocking this bad boy. I wish I could show you the cool B-rolls and great gameplay footage in real time, but I live in a den. I've got no money. I hunt for food every day. Basically, I'm a lion. So, deal with it. There you have it. All this goodness and a great price puts the Dell G15 5515 in the top tier list of laptops that you should consider. Not to mention, Dell is a well-reputed brand which was only missing out of this race due to its inability to price their products competitively and making really hot products. But that's all gone now. It's a thing of the past. Go and check it out before it sells out. And subscribe, please.